Is it wrong to marry someone for money if it means saving your brother's life? That's what Polly Harway asked herself when Jeremiah Clint offered her $500,000 to pretend to be his wife for 1 year. No love, no expectations, just a transaction. She told herself it was just business. She told herself she could keep her heart out of it. She told herself a lot of lies that year. But the biggest lie? That she was only pretending to fall in love with him. If you're already hooked, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because this story is about to take you on an emotional roller coaster you won't see coming. 3 days before the offer that would change her life, Polly Harway was just trying to survive. At 26, she worked the morning shift at Brew Haven Coffee Shop and the night shift entering data for a medical billing company. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when her 22-year-old brother Danny was fighting stage 3 lymphoma and the medical bills had climbed to $47,000. Their small apartment in Queens was 2 months behind on rent, and Polly's dreams of finishing medical school felt like they belonged to someone else entirely. That Tuesday morning started like any other exhausting day. Polly was running on 3 hours of sleep, her hands moving on autopilot as she prepared a double espresso. She turned too quickly, and the scalding coffee splashed across the front of an expensive suit. The man wearing it didn't even flinch. "I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Polly grabbed napkins, her face burning with mortification. The suit probably cost more than she made in 3 months. The man looked down at his ruined jacket, then up at her. He had dark hair, sharp gray eyes, and the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. "It's fine," he said simply. "Let me pay for the dry cleaning. Please, I insist." Polly's voice cracked. She couldn't afford it, but she couldn't not offer. "That won't be necessary." He pulled out his phone, completely dismissing her, and walked out without another word. Polly thought that was the end of it. She thought wrong. 3 days later, she was halfway through her data entry shift, her eyes burning from staring at the computer screen, when someone knocked on the office door. It was nearly midnight. No one knocked at midnight. She opened it to find the coffee shop man standing there in another expensive suit, this one perfectly clean. "How did you find me?" Polly's heart hammered in her chest. "Jeremiah Clint," he said, extending his hand. "And when you want to find someone, money makes it remarkably easy. Can we talk?" "About what?" "I already apologized for the coffee." "I'm not here about the coffee." He glanced at the dingy office behind her. "I'm here with a proposition. Can we go somewhere private?" Every instinct told Polly to say no, but something in his expression made her hesitate. Desperation recognizes desperation, even when it's wearing a $10,000 suit. 20 minutes later, they sat in a 24-hour diner. Jeremiah ordered black coffee. Polly ordered nothing, too nervous to eat. "I need a wife," Jeremiah said flatly. Polly blinked. "Excuse me? For 1 year. My grandmother is dying. Her last wish is to see me married and settled before she goes. She also happens to control 51% of my company's shares until I, quote, prove I'm mature enough to lead alone, unquote. The board is threatening a takeover. I need to be married within 2 weeks, or I lose everything I've built." Polly stared at him. "This is insane. You're insane." "I'm pragmatic." He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. $500,000. You pretend to be my wife for 1 year. We live together for appearances. We attend social functions together. At the end of 12 months, we divorce quietly, you get your money, and we go our separate ways. Polly's hands trembled as she opened the folder. The contract was real. The number was real. "Why me? You're a billionaire. You could have anyone." "That's exactly the problem," Jeremiah said. "Everyone in my world wants something from me. My last relationship ended when I discovered my fiancé was feeding company secrets to a competitor while planning to marry me for the stock options. I need someone real. Someone who won't pretend to love me for the wrong reasons." His jaw tightened. "Someone who'll be honest about the transaction." Polly looked at the contract. $500,000. Danny's treatment. Their apartment. Maybe even a chance to go back to school someday. There would be rules, Jeremiah continued. Separate bedrooms. Public affection only when necessary. No emotional attachment. A non-disclosure agreement. You tell no one the truth. And after the year? You walk away with the money and your freedom. I get my company secured and my grandmother's peace of mind. Polly thought about Danny's last chemo session, how he tried to smile through the nausea. She thought about the eviction notice taped to their door. She thought about every dream she'd buried under the weight of survival. I need 24 hours to think about it. Jeremiah nodded and stood. You have my number. But Polly, I need an answer by tomorrow night. The clock is ticking for both of us. She didn't sleep that night. She sat beside Danny's hospital bed and watched him breathe, the monitors beeping steadily. He was so young. He deserved a chance at life. The next evening, Polly called Jeremiah. I'll do it, she said. But I have conditions too. My brother never finds out the truth. As far as anyone knows, we fell in love. And when this is over, you don't contact me again. Agreed, Jeremiah said. Can you meet me tomorrow to sign the papers? Yes. Then congratulations, Polly Harway. You're about to become Mrs. Clint. The penthouse was everything Polly had never imagined living in. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. The kitchen was bigger than her entire apartment. Her bedroom, separate from Jeremiah's as promised, had a bathroom with heated floors. This is temporary, she reminded herself, unpacking her 3 boxes of belongings into a closet the size of her old living room. Just business. Just 1 year. The first month was awkward. They moved around each other like strangers, which they were. Jeremiah left for work before dawn and returned after dark. Polly spent her days figuring out how to exist in this gilded cage, feeling like an imposter every time she touched something expensive. Then came the first family dinner. Jeremiah's grandmother, Margaret Clint, was 83 and sharp as a blade. She sat at the head of the massive dining table, her eyes assessing Polly with unnerving intensity. So you're the girl who captured my grandson's heart, Margaret said. I like to think we captured each other's, Polly replied carefully, the script she and Jeremiah had rehearsed. Margaret smiled. How did you meet? She spilled coffee on me, Jeremiah said, and for the first time, Polly heard something like amusement in his voice, then tried to pay for my dry cleaning even though she clearly couldn't afford it. It was the most genuine interaction I'd had in years. It wasn't entirely a lie. That made it easier to smile. Good, Margaret said. He needs genuine. He's been surrounded by vultures too long. Her eyes softened as she looked at Polly. Tell me about yourself, dear. Not the rehearsed version. The real one. Polly hesitated, then found herself talking about Danny, about dropping out of med school, about dreams postponed. The words came easier than expected. Margaret listened like she actually cared. You're a fighter, Margaret said when Polly finished. Good. He needs someone who fights. After dinner, as they drove home, Jeremiah was quiet. Your grandmother is incredible, Polly said. She is. And she liked you. That's not easy to accomplish. Even though I'm not from your world? Jeremiah glanced at her. Especially because you're not from my world. She's always hated the phoniness of it. It was the first real conversation they'd had. The weeks began to blur. Public appearances at charity galas where Polly wore borrowed designer gowns and learned to navigate conversations with people who'd never worried about money. Jeremiah's hand on her lower back, warm through the fabric, guiding her through crowds. Photographers capturing their smiles. But it was the private moments that began to chip away at Polly's defenses. Like the night she couldn't sleep, haunted by worry about Danny's next scan results. She went to the kitchen at 2 a.m. and found Jeremiah already there, staring out at the city lights. Can't sleep either? He asked. Too much on my mind. He poured her a glass of water without asking. Your brother. How did you know? You get a line between your eyebrows when you're worried about him. Jeremiah sat at the island. Want to talk about it? And somehow she did. She told him about Danny's surgery complications, about the fear that lived in her chest like a stone. Jeremiah listened, really listened, then shared something unexpected. His own story of loss, of his parents dying in a car accident when he was 19, of building his company from grief and desperation. "I'm sorry," Polly whispered. "Me too. About your brother. About all of it." They sat in comfortable silence until dawn painted the sky pink. After that night, something shifted. Jeremiah started coming home earlier. They'd have dinner together, trading stories about their days. He asked about her dreams of medicine, listened intently when she explained the research she'd been passionate about. She learned about his company, the technology that could change healthcare accessibility, the pressure he carried. "You're not what I expected," Polly admitted one evening. "What did you expect?" "Someone cold, detached." "You're not." Jeremiah looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Neither are you. I thought this would be simple. Just a transaction. And it's not." He didn't answer. The 4-month mark arrived with a charity gala. Polly wore a midnight blue gown that made her feel like someone else. Jeremiah's eyes widened when she emerged from her bedroom. "You look beautiful," he said softly. "It's just the dress." "No, it's not." At the gala, they danced. His hand at her waist felt too right. The way he looked at her made her forget they were pretending. "Polly," he murmured as they swayed to the music. "I need to tell you something." But before he could, a woman's voice cut through the moment. "Jeremiah, darling, you didn't tell me you'd gotten married." Polly turned to see a stunning blonde in a red dress, her smile sharp as glass. "Betty," Jeremiah's voice went cold. "What are you doing here?" "I'm on the charity board now. Didn't you hear?" Betty's eyes raked over Polly. "And this must be the wife. How quaint. Where did you find her?" "A catalog." "Careful," Jeremiah said quietly. "Oh, relax. I'm sure she's lovely." Betty leaned closer to Polly. "Just remember, dear, men like Jeremiah don't actually marry women like you. Not for real. There's always an angle." She swept away, leaving poison in her wake. "She's my ex-fiancée," Jeremiah explained unnecessarily. "The one I told you about. Ignore her." But Polly couldn't. The words burrowed under her skin. The next week, everything began to unravel. Danny's surgery was scheduled, and Polly was a mess of nerves. Jeremiah insisted on coming to the hospital, sitting with her through the 8-hour operation. When the surgeon emerged with good news, Polly collapsed against Jeremiah's chest, sobbing with relief. He held her, his hand stroking her hair, murmuring reassurances. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being here, for everything." "Polly, I need to tell you something. This arrangement, it's not what I want anymore. I don't want it to end in 6 months. I want—" His phone rang. His lawyer. He stepped away to take it, and Polly's heart raced with possibility and terror. Jeremiah insisted Danny recover at the penthouse. He set up a guest room, hired a private nurse, made sure Danny had everything he needed. Polly watched him joke with her brother, saw the genuine care in his actions, and felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling. "He's a good guy, your husband," Danny said one afternoon. "The way he looks at you, Paul, that's real." Was it? Polly didn't know anymore. The lines had blurred so completely she couldn't see them. Then came the afternoon that destroyed everything. Polly came home early from visiting the hospital. She heard Jeremiah's voice from his office, the door slightly ajar. "The contract ends in 6 months. Then we're done," he said into the phone. "Yes, I'm certain. It's already been decided." "No, there's no changing the terms now." Polly's blood went cold. She backed away, her vision swimming. It was just business. It had always been just business. She'd been a fool to think otherwise. Over the next week, everything seemed to confirm her fears. She saw him having lunch with Betty through a restaurant window. He took calls in private. The distance she'd thought they'd bridged suddenly felt like an ocean. The breaking point came at a board dinner. Polly sat beside Jeremiah, smiling her practiced smile, dying inside. Betty was there, watching with satisfaction. In the middle of the dinner, Polly stood abruptly. "I need to say something," she announced, her voice shaking. "This marriage, it's not real. It never was. We had a contract. 1 year. Money for my brother's medical bills. That's all this was. The room fell silent. Jeremiah's face went white. I'm not your prop anymore, Polly continued, pulling off her wedding ring. I'm done being a transaction. She placed the ring on the table in front of him. Consider the contract fulfilled early. I'll send back a prorated amount. She walked out, ignoring Jeremiah calling her name. By midnight, Polly had moved back to her old apartment with Danny. Her brother was confused. Hurt. She couldn't explain. She blocked Jeremiah's number after 17 missed calls and changed her locks. For 3 days she existed in a fog. Then Danny dropped the bomb. Margaret called me, he said. Jeremiah's grandmother. She wants to see you. She's in the hospital, Polly. It's not good. I can't. She asked specifically for you. Please. Polly went because she couldn't ignore a dying woman's request, no matter how much it hurt. Margaret looked smaller in the hospital bed, but her eyes were still sharp. Sit, child, she commanded. Polly sat. My grandson is an idiot, Margaret said bluntly. But then so are you. Excuse me? He was calling his lawyer that day to dissolve the contract early. He wanted to propose to you for real. No agreements. No transactions. Just love. But you ran before he could explain. Polly's world tilted. What? And you, dear girl, were so afraid of being hurt that you didn't stop to ask questions. You just assumed the worst. Margaret reached for her hand. I knew from the first dinner this was a fake arrangement. You think I'm senile? But I also saw 2 people falling genuinely in love while pretending not to. The best kind of love story, if you ask me. He's having lunch with his ex. He was telling her to leave you alone. She threatened to expose your contract to the press. He threatened her with a lawsuit. Margaret squeezed her hand. Go to him. Stop being afraid. Life's too short and I should know. Polly left the hospital in a daze. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and unblocked Jeremiah's number. Before she could call, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Jeremiah standing there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Can I come in? He asked quietly. Polly nodded, not trusting her voice. They sat on her worn couch, the contrast to his penthouse painfully obvious. I have something for you, Jeremiah said, pulling out papers. Not a contract this time. A prenuptial agreement. But not the kind you'd expect. Protects your assets. Anything I have goes to you if we divorce. You walk away with everything, and I get nothing. I don't understand. The night you left, Betty leaked our original contract to every tabloid in New York. It's everywhere. My board is furious. My company stock dropped 15%. He looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. And I don't care about any of it. I only care that you left thinking I didn't love you. Jeremiah, let me finish. Please. He took a shaky breath. I was calling my lawyer to end the contract because I wanted to propose for real. I wanted to date you properly, court you, do everything backwards because I fell in love with my fake wife and it's the most terrifying, wonderful thing that's ever happened to me. I don't need a wife for the board. I need you because I can't breathe right when you're not around. Because you make me laugh. Because you see me, not my money. Because I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you, Polly Harway. Tears streamed down Polly's face. You love me. I'm pretty sure I started falling that first night we couldn't sleep. Maybe even when you tried to pay for my dry cleaning with money you didn't have. He wiped her tears with his thumb. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I handled everything wrong. But I'm asking anyway. Can we start over? Real this time. No contracts. No games. Just us. Polly launched herself into his arms, nearly knocking him off the couch. You're an idiot. I know. I love you too. I've been in love with you for months and I was so scared. Me too, he whispered against her hair. So scared. They sat there holding each other while the sun set outside her window. 2 people who'd started with a lie and found their way to truth. The media storm was intense. The tabloids had a field day with the contract marriage of the century. But something unexpected happened. The public loved it. They loved the Cinderella story. The fake marriage that became real. the billionaire who fell for the girl with nothing. Jeremiah's grandmother recovered enough to insist on planning a real wedding. "I didn't sit through that courthouse nonsense just to miss the actual celebration," she declared. The wedding was small, intimate, nothing like the elaborate fake ceremony they'd originally planned. Danny walked Polly down the aisle, cancer-free and crying like a baby. Jeremiah tore up the original contract during his vows. "No more agreements," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Just promises. I promise to love you, to choose you, every day. For real this time." Margaret sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes. "I knew it all along," she whispered to anyone who'd listen. 1 year later, Polly stood in the nursery of their penthouse, her hand on her growing belly. She was back in medical school, funded by Jeremiah but supported by her own determination. They were building a children's hospital in Danny's name, focusing on families who couldn't afford treatment. Jeremiah came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About a girl who spilled coffee on a billionaire and ended up here. It seems impossible. The best things usually do." He turned her to face him. "Any regrets?" Polly thought about the contract on that diner table, about the fear and desperation that had made her sign it. She thought about every moment since that had led them here. "Not a single one. Best business deal I ever made was betting on love." Jeremiah laughed and kissed her. And somewhere in the distance, Manhattan sparkled with possibility. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional roller coaster rides. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you have signed that contract? See you in the next story.